Hey Brian,
Hello, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well. 1,000 miles an hour, but I'm doing well.
Yep.
I think things are supposed to slow down as you get a little older. Not happening.
Yeah. One day at a time, I keep saying. That-
Oh yeah, that's about right.
That's that is my current mantra.
I've had to do that. I think my hardest time was April and May. I'd wake up in the middle of the night thinking, is this all really happening? Just with everything being shut down.
Yeah.
It was so weird. I'm no longer having those dreams or waking up as a result of that. I'm,
Good.
I'm waking up for other things. And as a doctor
Yeah.
once told me, he says, it's age.
That's why I just stay away from the doctor.
That's
Just
a good
kidding.
move.
Hello, Shanti. How are you?
Hello, I'm well. How are you all doing?
Good. Thank
Thanks
you
for
for.
making time for us today. We're really grateful.
Oh, we're grateful on our side, so thank you. And is Corey also joining? It's just you. I just
Corey will be logging on any moment. Yes, he
Okay.
will be here
Got it.
shortly.
Great.
Yeah. We're your only agenda item today. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Great. Well, thanks for meeting specially for us. We appreciate that. I was just tabling at the University of Montana, and it was interesting to finally be out at something like in
Yeah.
physical, just doing some education outreach about the bus, but also, for any registered voters in the area, letting them know. And
Yeah.
it was nice to connect with students. So there was very few, there's a lot fewer this year, but the ones who came by, it was just really nice to have that outreach.
That's great. And there's Corey, I see.
Hey, Brian.
Hi, Corey. We'll
The
get
webinar
going.
is live and we're live on YouTube. Good to go on my end. Not sure about Kirsten.
Kirsten, do you need to weigh in at all? How are you? Are you ready?
I am ready to go.
So we're still a minute to go, and I counting how many people we have. I'm gonna wait another minute or two. Well, it is 1:15. We are one shy of a quorum, but that's okay. We can go ahead and proceed. So I will call the Committee of the Whole meeting for Wednesday, September 23rd to order. We continue to meet virtually. There is a slide up on the screen about how to join the webinar. There's a link there, www.ci.missoula.mt.us/webcasts. You can register while one is in process. And then we also have a slide for public participation. If you're participating on a computer, you can raise or lower your hand as a participant, as an attendee to the webinar. Folks can raise or lower your hand by clicking more on an iPhone or Android, *9 to raise or lower your hand for dial-in participants. And then as always, we've got our City Council voicemail and email that goes to all council members. And obviously those are available at all times, 406-552-6012. And the council email, council@ci.missoula.mt.us. We Kirsten, do you want to call roll or do you want me to just tell you?
I can go ahead and call roll.
Okay, I believe we are 6. I'll help out as we go through.
Okay, great. Is Anderson here?
No.
No. Becerra,
Also no at the moment.
Contos. I think I saw John.
Yes, John is here.
Hart.
She will be absent.
I see Jordan. I see Gwen. Is Merritt here? Yes, I see Julie. Ramos?
She will
No.
be absent.
Okay. Amber Cheryl?
She's not feeling well. I think she will miss this as also.
Okay. Vasika? Nope.
Present.
Yep, she's
Oh,
here.
she's here. Yay. And Brian is here. And how about Heidi West?
Not seeing her currently.
Okay. I got attendance.
So I think we have 6. So it's not quite a quorum. So I'm going to hold off on approval of minutes. But I will take any public comment on non-agenda items. If there's anyone who is attending who wants to provide comment on non-agenda items, I'm not seeing any. So we will move to our regular agenda. We've got one item today. I want to welcome Shanti Johnson and Corey Aldridge from Mountain Lion, and they're here for a presentation with regard to the mill levy request that's on the ballot this fall. And I just want to give a heads up to folks, and Jordan, I may defer to you here. Just want to be clear, this is not an opportunity for council members to sort of weigh in around thoughts around it. It's an opportunity to understand sort of what the mill levy is, the mechanics of it, what exactly is on the ballot in the fall. Is that a fair characterization, Jordan?
I think that's correct.
Thanks. And I am seeing Miss Cheryl join us and Miss West. Hope you're feeling better, Amber. And Heidi, you're there? You are. So we do have a quorum. I will then take that opportunity. We have, I believe it's 4 sets of minutes going back through June. Are there any changes or additions or corrections to those minutes? Okay, seeing none, those will stand approved. And with that, Corey, did you want to kick us off, or Shanti, how did you guys want to do this?
I'd be happy to kick it off. So do we have that?
So we did send over our presentation, but I also have it loaded on my screen. What is the best way for us to, do you want me to share my screen?
Yeah, you can share the screen. That would work great, I think.
Great. Okay, let me know when you can see it.
We can.
Okay.
Great. All right.
Great.
Well, I'll let Corey kick us off and I'll be here in the mix as well.
Thanks.
Well, thank you for giving us this opportunity to come and talk to you today. We really appreciate it. You know, public transit is something that I'm passionate about, and Mountain Lion is something that I love dearly. And I'm really excited about this opportunity that we do have. Next slide. So back in 2017, we began community outreach to ask the public what they wanted to see in the next phase of services. You know, up to that point in 2013, we'd added in our first Bolt route, 15-minute service. And then in 2015, we put in our second Bolt route and added additional evening service. And we implemented our partner-funded zero fare program. So with this community outreach that we did in 2017, the responses that we received from the public were overwhelmingly, they want more. They wanted more service. They wanted to see more service on the weekends, longer hours. And so with that plan in place, it had a series of steps or next steps of improvements for Mountain Lion. Our board of directors has determined that now is the time for them to go forward and ask, put this mill levy ask on the ballot. So what does that mill levy give us? Well, the ask is for 20 mills, which would be equivalent of about $3 million a year. It would expand our weekend service. It would give longer hours on Saturday, and it would give Sunday service for the very first time. In the history of Mountain Line, we've never had Sunday service, and this is a much needed missing element for Mountain Line service. We would increase some frequency on our heavily used routes. We would see earlier morning and late evening service, and it would enhance our zero fare program. So when the zero fare program was started back in 2015, it started with 15 partners, which helped to replace the cost of fares. And the cost of fares, the amount of fares that we had collected up to that point on average was about $460,000 a year. At that point, we had 900,000 rides that we were providing. After zero fare and phase 2 improvements, we saw our ridership go to over 1.5 million rides. And when you look at the overall cost that we would have collected for fares, the amount that we were collecting with our partners no longer met those needs. And rather than going out to our zero fare partners and saying, asking them to make up the difference, because this is a benefit to the entire community, we are now asking the community, if you really love zero fare and want to see it stay in perpetuity, then we need an ability to do that. And that's one of the asks on this mill levy ask. It will also support our conversion to zero tailpipe emission vehicles. Our board of directors has made a commitment to move all buses to zero tailpipe emissions by 2035. So far, we have 6 buses on the road. We have 2 more that are being ordered that will arrive next year, and then 2 for the following year. But that'll get us about 30% of our fleet. We still have the other 70 that we need to convert over to electric, and this funding will assist with that. So all of these service expansions, it'll apply to our fixed route service, our paratransit service, and our shuttle service. Next slide. So the annual cost of this mill ask would be $27 on a $100,000 home, $54 on a $200,000 home, or $81 on a $300,000 home. And we know there's not a lot of $100,000 or $200,000 homes out there. So really focus on the $81. That's almost to what the median price of a home is right now. Shanti.
Well, Corey mentioned, some of these service expansions that we're looking for, and that was quite a few bullet points as to what this mill levy would support if passed. Primarily, it would support our service expansions. And just a couple of things I do want to point out. It would extend Saturday service. Right now, we have a truncated service on Saturday, and this would allow us to start earlier and run until 11 p.m. on some of our routes. It would also add Route 11 service on Saturdays, which currently does not run on the weekends. Like Corey mentioned, it would add Sunday bus service for the first time ever, and that would be full day service as well. And then it would extend our weekday service to start earlier on all of our routes and then to go later on most of our routes. So going until 9 p.m. at night on all of our routes minimum, and up until 11 p.m. on some of our higher frequency, like our Bolt routes. And this is really important, especially for those in our community who aren't working the traditional 9 to 5. Looking at our service industry, we already serve a lot of people in that industry, but might not serve them all day, just given their hours. We're also excited about the potential for people to access community events when we're out in the public again and going downtown for things. This would offer an accessible, safe ride home. Like Corey mentioned as well, it will also increase frequency. And one of the key places that I want to point out where frequency would be increased is on our Route 4. Now, our Route 4 serves most of our riders in the Milltown, Bonner, East Missoula area. And currently we only run during peak times. So primarily those 9 to 5 commuters in the morning and in the afternoon, but we have a lot of ridership out in that area, and we would be able to extend Route 4 service all day in that section of our community. And like Corey mentioned, it will benefit not only our fixed route riders, but our paratransit and senior riders. Corey did mention, the the desire to ask our community to support the Zero Fare program moving forward. We intend to continue our existing partnerships with our community members. We value them. We think there's a huge asset to having a collaboration between local businesses and organizations to make this service possible. But we want to have a bridge between what we are doing now and the potential for growth in the future to ensure that we can continue to provide Zero Fare service. I think Corey covered this pretty great, so I'm going to just reiterate that it would support the conversion to our zero tailpipe emissions fleet. And I'll turn it back over to Corey for economic return.
So one of the great benefits of public transportation is not only does it benefit the community, riders, putting less vehicles on the road, allowing seniors and those with disabilities the freedom to get around and people to get to their appointments. It also is an investment, and there's a great return to the community. According to an APTA study, every $1 in public transit investment generates $5 in economic return. So this is a great investment, return on your investment. So in fiscal year 2020, Mountain Line secured $4.6 million to purchase additional electric buses, and those are the two that we will purchase this year and the two the following year. And this is really directly related to the increase in ridership that we've seen since going to Zero Fare in phase 2. Prior to that, Mountain Line had received maybe about $1 million leading up to 2015. So we can see a direct correlation to the funding that we have received from our grant program because they see that the community is utilizing public transit, and they see the support that the community is giving through the Zero Fare program.
And to also just tie that back into the support of our conversion to a zero tailpipe emissions fleet with this mill levy ask, like Corey mentioned, we were competitive for these state and federal funds because we have a demonstrated community support. We're able to demonstrate that through ridership numbers right now, but by showing community investment through the mill levy, that is how it would support this conversion rather than directly purchasing any electric vehicles. And then outside of, the numbers, we know that Zero Fare, easy to use public transit is vital to a robust economy for a lot of quality reasons, not just quantitative. We know that reliable transportation increases property values. It also means that employees can get to work, and those with limited resources can access healthcare and affordable housing. This was starkly outlined for us during the height of the shutdown in our state, when we still had riders, still 30% taking our services multiple times a day to either keep our community running or to access essential service. We know that our service supports connectivity between Missoula's entire business community, which substantially benefits local businesses. This point actually came directly from one of our Zero Fare partners, who's a business owner. We did some outreach to our Zero Fare partners a couple months ago, primarily to recognize them using their own words for their participation and support of this program. But some of what we got back was extremely valuable as a reminder of what this means to different people and how it benefits our community. It also makes our community more welcoming and accessible, not only for newcomers and tourists, but also for locals, teens, and seniors. And overall, we know that it bolsters Missoula's livability. So why now? This is a trying year, as we all know. And this decision to be on the ballot this year did not come without a lot of hand-wringing by the board of directors. We had done our strategic plan update in 2018. We did some voter outreach polling in 2019. We were set to go forth in 2020. And then when the pandemic hit, we put the brakes on everything. And we're continually reevaluating the situation and ended up actually engaging a third-party polling organization to go back to our voters, to the district voters in July. So just 2 months ago, to say, hey, we had great feedback in 2019, but how are you feeling about this year as we're heading into this uncertain economic future? Montana seems to often be at the tail end of any sort of economic impacts. And I think all of us were pretty hesitant. We're thinking, okay, it's probably not going to happen this year. But I know personally, and I know we can speak from a lot of the staff members and board members' perspective, we were all really surprised by just how supportive our poll came back as far as people valuing zero fare transit, especially as we head into an uncertain economic future, knowing that this is a service that benefits us all. And we're also at a transformative time for Mountain Line. As you know, our community is growing rapidly, and we want to ensure that as our community grows, we continue to grow and to stay relevant to meet the needs of that community. So that was a lot of information, and we would love to hear your feedback to answer any other questions you might have. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and we can always bring it back if we need to, but so we can see each other and talk about any questions you have.
Great. Thank you both very much. Got a queue of people here. First, Mr. Hess.
Thanks, and thanks, Corey and Shanti, for the presentation. It's really exciting that I think that you're asking the voters to weigh in on the future of Mountain Line. I think a lot of the objectives of the mill levy are really in line with a lot of our community planning goals. One thing in particular to me, I wonder if you, through your planning efforts, if you've had any sense of the impact of expanding the frequency and span of service in terms of livability, and I mean, just sort of what types of benefits that would have to our community, and specifically from the context of our 2045 long-range transportation plan has a goal to triple the number of people that are biking and walking and using transit. And I wonder if you could just kind of speak to how this that dramatic expansion in frequency and span of service helps get us toward those goals.
Great, I'd love to answer that. Thanks, Jordan. So for public transit to be a viable option for the public, it needs to come frequently. It needs to operate in the hours that they need it to, which, you know, a lot of people in our community don't work a typical 8 to 5 job. And so they need service that starts earlier or runs later in the evening. And so with this mill levy ask, this will provide those additional hours in the evening, and will provide Sunday service where we have a lot of our public that are riding on Sundays. And so it will make transit a more viable option for people. And if people are able to live in our community and get where they want to go and need to go without a car, that's a huge savings for them in a time where home prices continue to go up and up.
Great. Can I kind of follow up on that as well? So, you know, another thing, I guess, just along the cost standpoint, in past research, I know that the AAA cost of car ownership is around $8,000 a year, and it feels to me like we have some opportunities to transition, you know, to facilitate households. You know, maybe a 3-car household becomes a 2-car household, or a 2-car household becomes a 1-car household. Do you have any sense? Can you talk to us a little bit about just the economic benefits of you know, zero fare? What your ridership increases were as a result of zero fare, and maybe just any testimonials that you've had around you know, what economic impact this has had on households?
Great. So if I understand your question, what you're asking, yeah, the zero fare it's surprising. Taking a bus, when you have to pay a fare, it not only is there the cost factor, but there's also the fear factor of not knowing how do I pay for a fare? How do I board? How do I utilize it? It keeps a lot of people from actually using the service. Zero fare took away that fear. You can walk on and take any bus and go anywhere you want in the community. For people who live on a really tight budget or limited income, sometimes, you know, the cost of a fare was the difference between that and being able to go get groceries. We've had, since zero fare began, we have had a number of people that have come to us and told us how great zero fare has been for them. And from, as far as, you know, people that have been temporarily without a vehicle and been able to still get where they need to go, for those who are, you know, they had their last $5 at the end of the month and it was at our groceries and they're able to get there. We have Wi-Fi on all of our buses, which we offer, and we had a mother who talked about her two children would actually ride the bus and do their homework, so they could get to where they need to go and utilize the Wi-Fi access that they needed on there. So the benefits have been great. When we started, when we talked about doing zero fare, we had looked at this in 2012-ish, 2013, when it went to the voters for the last mill levy ask. And at that time, zero fare was still, people weren't sure about zero fare. They weren't super comfortable with it. They just didn't understand it. The polling on it wasn't really high. This time around, when we asked the public about zero fare and their support, it was a resounding support. We had over 80% that were supportive of zero fare and want to see it continue.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Thanks, Ms. Vasika.
Thanks. So on the $300,000 home, will it be an $81 increase or will it be $81 total?
It'll be an $81 increase for this mill levy ask.
What is it currently on a $300,000 home?
For Mountain Line total? Is that
Yes.
what your question is? Last year, there was roughly 35 mills, which I don't know what it is exactly on the price
So
of a home.
we looked at a 315,000 home for what it was in 2019, and it was $150 for the year.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. West.
Thank you. So I was wondering, the expanded service, I assume will translate to additional people also being hired by Mountain Line to, accommodate the bigger schedule and an added day. So I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about the number of jobs that this mill levy is going to create.
That's a great question. Public transit, in order for us to operate, we have to have employees. We have to have drivers. So we estimate with this mill levy ask, if it's successful, that we'll have to hire 15 to 20 new drivers, plus additional support personnel. So we could have upwards of 25 new jobs created.
Ms. Merritt.
Hi, thanks, Corey and Shanti, for being here. I guess my question is about, I know that the total budget for Mountain Line is, made up of a couple of different pieces. So how much proportionally do our zero fare partners contribute? And how does that kind of round out the budget for you guys?
You want to answer that one, Shanti?
Yeah, so as Corey mentioned, when we debuted the zero fare program, we estimated our financial needs off of our 2014 ridership. Between 2014 and 2020, our ridership has grown 70%. And while we've not had an equal increase in costs, we have had a significant increase in operations costs. And so as of last year, we're approximately 60% underfunded with zero fare contributions. So we cover about 40% of what we would be collecting if we were collecting fares. And that's how we calculate that. That doesn't necessarily factor in our efficiencies from not having to collect and process fares. And it also doesn't factor in the amount of federal and state funding that we're able to secure and bring to Missoula as a result of increased ridership. That's strictly just fares.
Can I maybe just clarify that in my own brain? So if I understood that correctly, the current amount that we get from the zero fare partners covers what would be about 40% of the fare that we had been charging people. If all of the growth that we had seen had happened under a fare paying scenario, am I restating that accurately?
Yeah, exactly. So if we were to collect fares from our current ridership, which is about 1.5 million annually, looking at that financial revenue source against what we're collecting from partners, there's about a 60% difference.
Okay. And but we know that a large portion of the growth in ridership we've seen is because of zero fare. So likely we would not have seen that kind of growth without that, right?
Yeah, so we surveyed riders, I think it was a year, maybe 2 years after the zero fare program began. And we heard from 48% of them that they ride either because or more often because of zero fare. So we know that that had a huge impact on growing our ridership. And we've also seen our cost per rider go down because ridership increased relative to operating costs. So we know that there's some efficiency there as well.
Excellent, thank you.
Ms. Becerra.
Thank you. My question is along the same lines. I think that clearly the zero fare success and continued support by all the partners speaks to the importance of our transit system in the community. But I think there's a lot of misconception out there. A lot of people think it's the city who pays for the entire zero fare program. And so could you just list some of the partners and what the percentage of the city contribution is?
I can definitely list partners right away. As far as the percentage of their contribution, I would have to get back to you on that. I don't have the financials directly in front of me, but we have a mix. We have, yes, contributors from the city and also the county, but we also have private businesses such as the Good Food Store. We have real estate agencies like Windmere Real Estate, the Midtown Association. Let's see, I'm thinking off the top of my head. We have several radio stations, the Trail 103.3 and Mountain Broadcasting. I'm going to pull them up so I don't forget any big ones. MCPS and the Missoulian are partners, the University of Montana, ASUM Transportation, Missoula Aging Services. Both of the hospitals are significant contributors. So St. Providence, St. Pat's, and Community Medical. Also Clearwater Credit Union, the Downtown Association, DJNA, and MMW Architects. We have a smattering, Missoula Housing, Destination Missoula. We have about 26 partners right now.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to say that a lot of employers and service providers are partners, and to me, that's a testament of the need and importance of this service.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I remember Jordan and I were on council when we first were part of the partnership to do zero fare. And I remember the city, county, the hospitals, and the university, among others. And you mentioned all of those. I'm going to go to Ms. Cheryl and then back to you, Jordan, just because Amber hasn't had a chance yet.
Thank you. So I'm just curious with that level of increase in ridership from 14 to 20, and you said a 70% increase. I don't know. I'm assuming that translates into a lot of actual numbers, a lot of actual rides. Do you guys do, or is there a way to do any type of kind of estimate for what level of emissions that has saved? Or I mean, if you're estimating that one person, that there are 2 people per car or whatever, which we know everyone's alone in their car most of the time, but I'm just kind of curious if there are any estimates on the level of emissions, I guess, that are saved by a certain number of rides or something. Trying to translate this into numbers somehow.
Do you have that?
Maybe I'll start, or yeah, I can start, and then maybe Corey can fill in where I don't adequately explain. I personally, as the communicator for Mountain Line, would love even more numbers than I have right now as far as tangible data for our valley. You know, I have some of the bigger studies that I have access to, like the Department of Transportation. They found that if a person were to take public transit versus driving alone, they can save up to 81% as far as reducing their CO2 emissions. Now that's a big stat, and that's if someone were to choose that probably over any other source every time. But I mean, it's still significant, and that's not even looking at a zero tailpipe emissions fleet, which is where we're heading. We know that, you know, we had a stat saying there's about 4% reduction in average annual carbon footprint by the typical American household if they take public transit, and that's a couple years old. So in order to update that data with our new emissions lowering buses, would be my dream to have that data soon. And maybe Corey can fill in anything that I didn't cover.
No, you answered it pretty good, Shanti. We know that we will need to update our data and figure that out. So that's a question that's coming up more often, trying to really hone in on what the savings of emissions are. But it's a challenging one to really pin down and come up with a number.
And I'm going to go to Jordan. We're a little over time, but Jordan is chairing the next meeting and graciously giving us some extra time.
I think it's, I know that another important goal of the mill levy is expanding your fleet of battery electric buses or zero tailpipe emission buses. And I mean, I know Mountain Line is probably pushing 1 million miles a year or more on your fleet. And I mean, it's a really significant benefit to our airshed and also a significant public benefit in terms of noise and other impacts. Can you talk a little bit about the reception of your electric buses so far and how that fits into this mill levy request?
Great. As far as reception by the public, was that your question?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Boy, I was excited about electric buses coming, but I had no idea how excited the community would be. We have heard overwhelmingly people love it. It was one of the questions we asked in our poll as well, and I think it was the one that polled the very highest was the excitement around us reducing our carbon emissions by moving to an all-electric fleet. I haven't talked to anybody yet who doesn't like the fact that we're moving to electric. We know that we have an air quality issue here in Missoula, and anything we can do to change that and improve that is welcome.
Can I ask one more question, Brian?
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, this isn't a question. This is a statement, I guess. This is at the very end of a very long ballot. I don't know if it's 4 or 5 pages, but it's a big ballot. I'm not in this role at this time going to advocate for a position, but I do think it's really important that people vote their ballot and vote their entire ballot and get to the end of the ballot and let it be known how they feel on this measure. And I just wanted to highlight that these local measures often are always at the end of the ballot, and it's a big ballot this year.
Yeah, good point. We're about 5 minutes over. Thanks, Jordan, for a little extra time. Not seeing anybody else with their hands up and not seeing anybody in the public with a raised hand. I just want to thank you, Shanti and Corey, for joining us and for the information. I saw the presentation and one other one of the co-ads actually, so good to see it again. But thanks so much for joining us, and with that, we will be adjourned.
Thanks, everybody. We
Thank you for
appreciate it.
having us.
Thanks.